Throughout history, the Bible has been a source of wisdom, guidance, and prophecy. While skeptics may dismiss biblical predictions as vague or coincidental, there are some prophecies so precise and so shocking in their fulfillment that they demand our attention. Today, we're going to explore the 8 most shocking biblical prophecies that came true. Prophecies that bridge the gap between ancient texts and modern reality. But before we dive in, let's consider for a moment. What makes a prophecy truly shocking? Is it the specificity of the prediction, the time span between the prophecy and its fulfillment, or perhaps the sheer improbability of the event occurring as foretold? As we journey through these 8 prophecies, I encourage you to ponder these questions and decide for yourself what makes each one truly remarkable. 1. The fall of Tyre. Our first prophecy takes us back to the ancient city of Tyre, a wealthy Phoenician seaport. In Ezekiel 26, 3-14, written around 587 BC, the prophet Ezekiel made a series of specific predictions about Tyre's destruction. He prophesied that many nations would come against Tyre, that its walls and towers would be broken down, and that its stones, timber, and soil would be cast into the sea. At the time, this seemed almost impossible. Tyre was a powerful city with strong defenses, including a portion of the city on an island half a mile from the coast. Yet, just as Ezekiel foretold, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came against Tyre, laying siege to it for 13 years. This fulfilled part of the prophecy, but the island city remained unconquered. Then, 250 years later, Alexander the Great arrived. In one of the most stunning military maneuvers of ancient history, Alexander's forces took the rubble from the mainland city and built a causeway to the island. They quite literally scraped the soil from the old city and cast it into the sea, fulfilling Ezekiel's prophecy in astonishing detail. Today, fishermen can be seen spreading their nets on the bare rock where Tyre once stood. Just as Ezekiel predicted, it will become a place to spread fish nets. The precision of this prophecy and its fulfillment over centuries is truly shocking. 2. The reign of Cyrus the Great. Our second prophecy is equally astounding. In Isaiah 44:28-45:1, we find a prophecy about a king named Cyrus who would allow the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. What's remarkable about this is that Isaiah made this prophecy around 700 BC, about 150 years before Cyrus was even born. Isaiah writes, "Who says of Cyrus, 'He is my shepherd, and will accomplish all that I please'? He will say of Jerusalem, 'Let it be rebuilt,' and of the temple, 'Let its foundations be laid.'" This is what the Lord says to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I take hold of, to subdue nations before him, and to strip kings of their armor, to open doors before him so that gates will not be shut. Sure enough, in 538 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia conquered Babylon and issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. This decree is recorded not only in the Bible, Ezra 1:1-4, but also on the Cyrus cylinder, an ancient clay cylinder now in the British Museum. The specificity of naming a ruler a century and a half before his birth and accurately predicting his actions is nothing short of miraculous. It's as if someone in the 1850s had predicted the exact actions of a president in our time. 3. The destruction of Jerusalem. Our third prophecy brings us to one of the most pivotal moments in Jewish history. In Luke 21:5-6, Jesus makes a shocking prediction about the fate of Jerusalem and its magnificent temple. Standing before the temple, adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, Jesus tells his disciples, "As for what you see here, the time will come when not one stone will be left on another. Every one of them will be thrown down." At the time, this must have seemed unthinkable. The temple was the heart of Jewish religious and national life, and it had stood for centuries. Yet in 70 AD, approximately 40 years after Jesus' prophecy, the Roman army under Titus besieged Jerusalem, ultimately destroying both the city and the temple. The Jewish historian Josephus, who witnessed the event, described the destruction in horrifying detail. The Romans, seeking to retrieve gold that had melted between the stones during the fire, literally left no stone upon another as they dismantled the temple. Today, all that remains of the temple is the Western Wall, a retaining wall of the Temple Mount. The precision of Jesus' prophecy and its fulfillment within a generation is truly shocking. 4. The scattering and regathering of Israel. Our fourth prophecy is unique in that it spans thousands of years and is still unfolding today. In Deuteronomy 28:64-66, Moses prophesies that if the Israelites turn away from God, they will be scattered among the nations. He says, "Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations from one end of the earth to the other. Among those nations you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot." This prophecy was fulfilled multiple times throughout Israel's history, most notably with the Assyrian and Babylonian exiles, and then on a grand scale with the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, which led to the Jewish diaspora that lasted nearly 2 millennia. But the prophecy doesn't end there. In numerous passages, such as Ezekiel 37:21-22, God promises to regather his people. This is what the sovereign Lord says, "I will take the Israelites out of the nations where they have gone. I will gather them from all around and bring them back into their own land. I will make them one nation in the land, on the mountains of Israel." The fulfillment of this prophecy began in the late 19th century with the Zionist movement and culminated in the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Since then, millions of Jews have returned to Israel from all corners of the globe, fulfilling prophecies that were written thousands of years ago. The fact that the Jewish people maintained their distinct identity through centuries of dispersion and then regathered to form a nation in their ancient homeland is unprecedented in world history. It's a fulfillment of prophecy that continues to unfold before our eyes. 5. The rise and fall of empires. Our fifth prophecy takes us to the book of Daniel, specifically Daniel chapter 2. Here Daniel interprets a dream of King Nebuchadnezzar, which outlines the rise and fall of empires from Babylon to the end times. In the dream, a statue with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron and feet of iron mixed with clay, is struck by a rock that becomes a mountain, filling the whole earth. Daniel interprets this as representing successive kingdoms, starting with Babylon, the head of gold. Remarkably, history has borne out this prophecy. After Babylon came the Medo-Persian Empire, silver, then Greece under Alexander the Great, bronze, and finally Rome, iron. The feet of iron mixed with clay are often interpreted as a future revival of the Roman Empire, or a coalition of nations in the end times. What's shocking about this prophecy is its sweeping scope and accuracy. Daniel, writing in the 6th century BC, accurately predicted the rise and fall of empires centuries before they occurred. The precision with which these prophecies were fulfilled has led many scholars to argue that the book of Daniel must have been written after the events it describes, a testament to its accuracy. 6. The crucifixion of the Messiah. Our sixth prophecy brings us to one of the most central events in Christian theology, the crucifixion of Jesus. Remarkably, details of this event were prophesied centuries before crucifixion was even invented as a method of execution. In Psalm 22, written around 1000 BC, David writes a series of verses that eerily foreshadow the crucifixion. My God, why have you forsaken me?" Verse 1. The very words Jesus cried out on the cross. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. Verses 17 to 18. Fulfilled as the Roman soldiers divided Jesus' garments and cast lots for his seamless undergarment. Similarly, Isaiah 53, written around 700 BC, describes the suffering servant in terms that Christians see as a clear prophecy of Jesus. He was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities, and by his wounds we are healed. Verse 5. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. Verse 9. Fulfilled when Jesus was crucified between two thieves and buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, a rich man. The specificity of these prophecies, written centuries before the events they describe, is truly shocking. They provide a vivid picture of crucifixion long before it was practiced by the Romans. 7. The spread of Christianity. Our seventh prophecy relates to the astonishing spread of Christianity from a small group of disciples to a world religion. In Matthew 16:18, Jesus makes a bold prediction: "I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." At the time, this must have seemed unlikely. Jesus was an itinerant preacher with a small following in a remote corner of the Roman Empire. Yet within a few centuries, Christianity had spread throughout the empire and beyond, despite intense persecution. Today, Christianity is the world's largest religion, with over 2 billion adherents worldwide. From humble beginnings in Jerusalem, it has indeed spread to the ends of the earth, fulfilling Jesus' command in Matthew 28:19 to go and make disciples of all nations. What's shocking about this prophecy is not just its fulfillment, but the manner of its fulfillment. Christianity spread not through military conquest or political power, but through the peaceful sharing of a message of love and redemption. Despite centuries of persecution, war, and internal strife, the church that Jesus promised to build has indeed withstood the gates of Hades. 8. The prophecies of the end times. Our final prophecy is ongoing and relates to the signs of the end times described in various parts of the Bible, particularly Matthew 24, Mark 13, and the book of Revelation. These passages describe a series of events and conditions that will precede the return of Christ, including wars and rumors of wars, Matthew 24:6, famines and earthquakes in various places, Matthew 24:7, the gospel being preached to all nations, Matthew 24:14, increase in knowledge and travel, Daniel chapter 12:4, the rebirth of Israel as a nation, Ezekiel 37, signs in the sun, moon, and stars, Luke 21:25. While interpreters disagree on the specifics, many see current events as fulfilling these prophecies. The 20th century saw wars on an unprecedented scale. Modern technology has enabled the gospel to reach nearly every corner of the globe. The pace of scientific discovery and global travel has increased exponentially. Israel was re-established as a nation in 1948, and concerns about climate change and asteroid impacts have brought renewed attention to cosmic signs. What's shocking about these prophecies is their relevance to our modern world. Written thousands of years ago, they describe conditions that seem tailor-made for our time. As we conclude our journey through these 8 astonishing prophecies, it's natural to ask, what do they mean for us today? How should we respond to such remarkable predictions and their fulfillments? These prophecies challenge us to take the Bible seriously. If it has been proven accurate in such surprising ways, perhaps we should pay closer attention to its message and teachings. They remind us that history is not random, but has a direction and purpose. The God who could predict the rise and fall of empires and the specific details of events centuries in advance is surely in control of our world and our individual lives. Finally, these prophecies should inspire both awe and humility. Awe at the grandeur of a God who can declare the end from the beginning, Isaiah 46:10, and humility as we recognize our limited perspective in the grand sweep of history. If you've enjoyed the content on this channel, don't hesitate to check out the video appearing on your screen right now. I hope this journey through biblical prophecies has inspired you and given you a new perspective on God's Word and His plan for humanity. Until next time.